Welcome to War Games, hosted by the sales genius Joe Ingram. If you're looking to win the sales battle, then you have joined the right team. In the War Games group, we devise strategies for sales, marketing, branding, mindset, and attitude. We enlist the assistance from the most successful producers across all industries. We then share their knowledge and techniques with you. Our single goal is to get you ready for your next sales opportunity. When it comes to crossing the minefield of sales, step in the footprints of those that have crossed before you. Now, prepare yourself for boot camp and beyond. It's time for the War Games to begin.
Are we playing games?
Happy Wednesday, War Gamers. Joe Ingram, your host. I will grab one of our near and dear partners in crime, Brian Galkey, to come up on the screen with me because he's here as well. And that was just in case he was going to do something in the background. I already have him up here. He has to sit still now.
Damn it.
So, yes. But everybody, I am saying welcome today. I was very fortunate at the grace of Brian Galkey to be introduced to Christene Marie, who's our guest trainer today. She's going to be explaining to us about how to build your strong brand. And she has a definition of what that means. But when you look at Christene, apart from being bubbly, dynamic, and over the top and all around good person, she specializes in the curation of businesses and marketing strategy powered, by meaningful, compelling content. Right. I think that's a growing theme through War Games, which is your content meaningful and compelling? And this is her specialty. And she's looking for your content to elicit emotion-driven responses. How do you get people to engage with you and how you do that? And I know a lot of business owners have the issue of, I put a lot of stuff out, but I'm not getting stuff back. And that was the biggest contribution when you stop and say, hey, why would Christene be the best person to come on to War Games today? Apart from just being her, she's a phenomenal individual. She's one of those individuals that has her heart on her sleeve and cares about everybody that's around her. I picked up on that the first time Brian introduced us. And Brian said, this is a good person, and knowing how well Brian speaks, right? And he just threw that one little piece in, and Christene gets to now comment as I'm talking about her. But Brian's like, look, you need to meet Christene. She's a really, really a good person. And Brian doesn't say that about a lot of people. He's never said it about me. So to me, I was like, wow, this must mean something. And I need to, and instantly connected with Christene and said, you need to be on the show and you need to share some of the magic with everybody that's out there. So Christene, welcome.
Joe, thank you. And Brian, I would have never dreamed you would have such kind words. So it's a nice surprise to hear you view me favorably. So
really, it was just to get one over on Joe, but here we are.
Right. He's like, ha, I got you. She scheduled it. Yeah. And guys, the banter does go on like this on and off screen. So, but let's flip everybody around. And then I'm going to say, Christene, switch with me. And she's going to come over, and now she's up on the big screen that goes through. So our audience is entrepreneurs, business owners. They're people that in order to eat today, I've got to make sure I've sold something. So that's what pays their bills. And so one of the things that I think you bring is the ability to elicit emotion. And how do we go about doing it? Because I can go out there and speak my mind and piss off a lot of people, right? And limit the ability. And Brian's laughing because I have. Yes. So right. It's all in how you view whether or not it was effective or not. But most people say you've got to be polarizing. You've got to choose a side, say this and do that, whatever. But I'm thinking you may have a better way of getting us to the point of eliciting an emotion. Because I think if you can elicit a positive emotion, that would probably bring you a better chance of a customer as to, choosing a political side or choosing a moral issue to go stand on, and that has nothing to do with your business. And that's one of the things I think would be beneficial. So I'll stop talking now so you can jump in. So
Good. Well, thank you again for having me. I am really excited to be here. It was such a pleasure meeting you in Hollywood via Brian. So I mean, you raise a lot of good points, especially surrounding the polarization of content that is typically put out there. And it depends on the platform, right? So you have to consider the actual content, the platform itself, and then also who's speaking. So each one of these entrepreneurs has a business, and now it might be in their actual name. You can see my name or my website here, ChristeneMarie.com, but I have Starin Strategies, which is the fulfillment of what we do with Christene Marie. And so it's an interesting opportunity when you consider here's the parent business. It's separated from me. I am the founder. I am the CEO, whatever your role is. But here is this business. Here is its brand. And then how do I fit in as the founder, as the originator of that business? And so this is where it's an interesting opportunity for entrepreneurs to really take time to differentiate between the two based on the vision that you hold for your business. So if your vision is to sell the business, then you're going to really want the differentiation between the two so that the business is not tied to you as an individual. Whereas if your goal is to really cultivate it, have it become a family business. Actually, my family tonight is celebrating 100 years. My family's painting business, which is exciting. So obviously we've got the name of our family in the name of the business. Now that's not positioning us well to sell it. So if our goal changes to eventually sell it in the upcoming years, we probably want to do a rebrand. But while we have the differentiation between the business itself, where you have employees, potentially you get another CEO and you want to eventually remove yourself from the business, but you still want to own it, maintain ownership, or potentially sell, you need to have a different brand story. It needs to be able to exist apart from your presence and your own personal, not just involvement, but your own personal values. Your personal values versus the business values need to be different. And this is where I wanted to get to. Understanding your values as an individual is really what's going to be the driver and the propeller for the content you generate. So the polarization of the content itself, it really depends on what your personal belief system is and what your actual values are. But a lot of individuals, because we look horizontally to inform the type of content we produce, we're not actually living kind of vertically aligned with whatever your higher power is. For mine, it's God. It's like, okay, well, who am I? What are my values as it pertains to how I feel called? What stirs my passion? What makes me unique as an individual? Rather than looking to those around me to inform the values that I hold. Because if you're looking constantly around, your content is always going to be a shift. You're going to have kind of that flagpole that's constantly moving, because those voices around us shift and change. And so if we are living in vertical alignment and we have a strong moral compass, a strong alignment of our values, we're able to have that be our guiding, have that be kind of our guidepost moving us forward, and that be our moral compass, informing. It's kind of a top-down approach, right? And then that informs the content that we produce. And the same type of visual pertains to the business brand as well. So if you have strong core values as your business, they're going to inform the business decisions that you make. One of my favorite examples is Southwest. They made a really hard business decision back in, I believe it was 2009, to not charge for bags, where all their competitors were. So they were not looking, horizontally. They were staying in alignment with their values as a company, which are, we really want people to have a fun-loving experience. We want people to feel like they're getting a good value. So they made the decision, which was hard, I'm sure, to potentially risk $500 million loss in profit in 1 year alone. Consequently, they attracted a whole bunch of new audience and loyal customers to their brand, which was fabulous. But because they were able to make a business decision based on their values, that's what actually made them stand out in the landscape. So it's a value alignment, both whether it's your business or your personal brand, that really needs to be the driving factor that informs the type of content that you create.
Okay, my head blew up partway through. Okay, not your fault, but so one of the things I thought was great, because I toggle between this. Is it my name that again? So right. I built a name in an industry for sales. So my name will attract attention for people.
Right.
And so I shifted this partway through. So Ingram Interactive is my company. okay, as opposed to being just Joe Ingram. So I shifted it a little bit, so it still was me to attract attention, but still able to be sold later is what I thought. And then I shifted one more branch further and went to Sales Genius. So again, when you were saying this, I was like, I went through all of this mental hula hooping, right, to get to that point, because I was so worried about, is it my business? Do I want to sell it? But I hadn't defined it. I hadn't defined that I want to sell it later. And then, I get this, through TikTok, there's this one that pops up and says, all of these top major brands are based on people's names. Right. And so it's saying like Rolex, and this isn't a Rolex, but Rolexes are watches. Yeah. This is my obnoxious in your face watch. But but a Rolex is known as for what it is. And if they sold to a different company, they would still keep it as a Rolex. But when you realize that's the last name of somebody, and then you go through, Bentley is the last name of somebody, right? Rolls Royce, all of these different things are like Rolls and Royce together make a car that comes out. And so, but I like the way you said that, because to me, I go through the schizophrenia. And so part of the best thing, like you said, content goes all over the place, right? Brian and I have a mutual friend who pulls up my profile in the middle of a mastermind, and he's like, I can't tell if you do this, or this. And then I go, yes, I do.
Don't you love that call out?
Yeah. And he's like, I can't tell if you do this, you sell this. I'm like, I do sell all of it. That's why my profile is built the way it is. But I love because the word that kept screaming to me while you were talking was alignment. And so, but what really make the head pop was you were like personal values versus business values. And so that's where I looked and I said, I have my personal values. I don't think I've ever stopped to design what is the business values, because I've been so interlaced as I am the business. Right. And so what a way to change content, right?
Right.
That's, and so, like I said,
so true.
And my content shifts because I'm not aligned with what they are, because I haven't defined them. How can you align if you haven't defined them? Ugh, you're hurting me, Christine. You thought you were going to come on and be all pleasant and nice, and now you're over here just smacking me with this stuff. Yes.
Well, I appreciate your note regarding, the big brands that are tied to family names. I mean, I think that's where the nuance lies. And with my upbringing, so I was raised in a very black and white household, which is something I'm very proactively learning to undo, to allow for the gray and allow for the nuance, because when it comes to branding, it's truly not a one size fits all, especially when you consider personal branding, because it comes down to the individual. If we actually take the time and do the work to cultivate our personal brands, each one of us, the reason why you are a differentiator between every single one of your businesses is because no one else is Joe Ingram. And that's the beauty of developing. A lot of
people are grateful for that. Yes.
They're saying the first. No, but it's true. It's a beautiful thing and a beautiful opportunity that not many people are taking advantage of. So I want to say two things. One about the family name, and then also about the investment in personal brands for executives at these big conglomerate organizations. Because it's not just entrepreneurs that need to establish personal brands. Right. So with the naming convention, I think that you raised such a good point. And it is really important as it pertains to the business values. So actually, my company, Staring Strategies, we did the rebrand for my family a few years ago and brought them online, which was a great opportunity. And actually, it was a wonderful experience to be able to speak to the customers and speak to the team and hear how my dad personally has made an impact in their lives. And as we were developing the business values, so much of it came down to the personalization and the communication that came from my dad directly. And so then it's, okay, well, how does that translate into a value that can be carried on beyond my dad? Because my dad's 64. You know what I mean? He's not going to be around. I mean, he'll be around, but not necessarily
like
in the
Brian's
business.
Age.
So he's really looking to position the company by our direction and guidance in such a way that it has longevity beyond him, and therefore the values must be tied to the business, and therefore the mantle can be carried beyond him. Maybe the name doesn't change because, frankly, if you have established such a strong business brand that everybody knows Hoffman and everybody knows that Hoffman, the values are attributed, the name's attributed to the values, not to the person. And that's where there's opportunity to really bring that differentiation based on the vision of your business. Because if, we are 50, 60, pushing our tenure with the business, we need to be bringing other people along and training them up in the values of the business so that they can carry the heart and soul for you and be the best representative. We're actually finalizing a survey right now to send out to one of our clients just to understand how the employees perceive the company. And that's one of the questions. What are the company values? Because a lot of time employees don't know the company values, True. Not much less so the owner. And then how well do you feel like you're doing living it out? So a lot of times they can't even express them, but if they can, they actually don't rate themselves very well because that's not front of mind and guiding their business decisions. So that's kind of the first piece with the naming convention. I love that you brought that up, especially with Rolex. I mean, everybody knows that brand. And it's attributed very much so with the product offering. And that's actually an opportunity too with the values. I actually don't know what they stand for. However, I do know the feeling I get when I think of Rolex. And that's what a strong brand does. It sets the expectation for the emotional experience you'll have with the organization. And so that's really where, to your point, right at the beginning, as you're doing my intro, the emotional response that's elicited when you hear the brand's name, that's what makes a brand, is what people say about you or think about you, but feel about you. I mean, that's the biggest part, is the feeling that's conjured within one's body and heart and mind when they consider the brand, whether it's you as a person or the business itself. So
that's perfect.
That's important.
Yeah. So somebody, a previous guest had said that your brand is the fulfillment of your process or your promise. So whatever promise you made, your brand is your ability to fulfill that. So if you have a great brand, it's because you technically have fulfilled all of the promises you made to your clients. And so, but I like the translating values to the company, the translating of the values, because in all honesty, I help businesses. So I go into these large companies and help them with the sales route. But to most companies, it's the check off the box to come up with a mission statement, check off the box for company values and go through. Like I ran a company that the owner had put out, this is what our core values are. And they were on posters, done up well, all the way down the hallway. And not one person could tell you what it was, because after day 4 of walking down the hallway, everything's invisible. It's just a hallway.
Exactly.
And so you go, what's the core values? And they're like, huh? Even with management, he was like, we're going to do a big meeting at the end of the year. And I want you out. Like we rented out a movie theater. And then we were doing our own PowerPoints up on the movie theater screen. So it was amazing. Awesome. But it was like, he's like, each one of you take one of the values. And then like all of us are like, I guess we need to see a list of them to see what we're going to fight for to get through. Right. And so, but I love that you said that. And the checking in with your staff, checking in with the other people. What is the value? I think if anybody's listening, take that away from it. Do you actually know what the heck your values are? Are they in alignment with the company? And because again, another guest had also said there's intrapreneurs. Those are the people that are in a company that are trying to brand themselves, which you mentioned as well, which is, it doesn't mean you're out on your own, but how do you separate yourself from the company you work to build that brand for yourself? So,
and that's one of the big activations that we focused on in the summer for one of the world's leading organizations. We did, it was a historic event that they did. It was for Black women executives in their company, and it was very much in alignment with one of their DE&I goals. And so it was an interesting opportunity because, one, they'd never done it before. 2, it was a demographic that had never received a microphone. It had never had the limelight focused on them, and it was such an opportunity that they didn't want to mess it up. And so it was with the greatest care and concern that every single aspect was executed to the greatest precision and minute detail. And so our team was charged with communications. We did the social media, we did the speech writing, we did everything that was written that went out, we wrote. And so it was interesting because after the fact, this organization didn't necessarily give budget to the actual brand itself to put forward social media. They gave the budget to the actual executives for us to create content for the executives to put out the announcement that this happened. And so we wrote social media posts for 6 to 7 different top executives at this company. And one specific LinkedIn post got 688,000 organic impressions. And that blew me away. And it really solidified this point that it is so important to have a personal brand, to put forward not only your values, but represent the company, because the company knows the value of having people. We live in such an age where the customer has changed and they want to be hearing from people, especially in the age of social media. Social media has changed the entire landscape in which people are communicating. It's people to people. It's not company to person. So the mindset that we have as a business is person to person marketing as opposed to B2B or B2C. So it's changed. Everything's flipped on its head. Customers are looking for people to be speaking to them, not brands. And so the more these entrepreneurs who tune in every week can take the time to not only develop their values for themselves personally, but build out that content calendar that incorporate the personal with the business. So the personal and the business, combine those aspects and make sure that they overlap, because again, they want to hear from people, and the people that put forward the best content are the people that are actually authentic, not these the pre-produced, best looking graphic, best looking photo. It's the original,
the blue background
content.
Yeah.
So,
So understand too, and I'd like to point out this thing. A lot of companies would see it as a conflict of interest to promote their employee, right? And say, give the spotlight to them instead.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, that's fantastic, because what they would say is, great, so now I go promote how great this guy is and give him the budget, then my competitors steal him away. Right. And so I think it's very forward thinking, because again, somebody's got to jump out there, and at least they grabbed you to go help us with this so that you can get the organic reach and get it to, stimulate that emotion that's going to get somebody to associate with it. But they had to take, that's a big step. That's a fear to go, oh my goodness, I'm going to go promote this. Now, they weren't promoting the guy's side hustle, right? They were promoting that individual to say, here's the quality of people we have working for us, which is ultimately a great concept. But they really had to think past the initial, what could go wrong. So now, was that your team that did it, or was it that they came to you already? Were you the one going, let's promote the person, let's make sure we recommended that to them in terms of really putting forward the voices of the executives, especially when you consider the demographic, right? So this is where understanding the target audience is really important. These top executives were representing the women who attended the event. So it was that much more powerful and that much more verified and solidified the impact of the event when these women were equipped with messaging that really shone a spotlight on the values of the organization. Okay, so I'm going to ask another personal question, because it's my show. I can. Yeah. So understanding your target market. Is it okay to have multiple targets, or is that my schizophrenia going again? Having multiple targets and create content for the multiple targets. You started with the great thing of, you got to check what your platform is. Which platform are you using that's there? But to look and say, I want to go after this demographic, or I want to go after this kind of company, and then also go after this kind of company. Is it something that should be on the same platform where they're going to see it?
Good question. Right. And so kind of our 3-step process. Number 1 is knowing yourself, and knowing your values is part of that. Knowing your audience is number 2, and then number 3 is basically implement the best practices per platform that you choose. But knowing your target audience, so these are some of the questions that we ask when we're building on our target audience. Not only what are their values, right? Because you want to be able to speak to the emotional component of your target audience. What are their pain points? Every good marketer knows that you need to talk to the actual pain that someone feels, and then the transformation that occurs, to your point previous regarding the promise. But we also really look into, we call them watering holes. Where do they spend their time? What platforms are they on? Are there actual news outlets that they really consume the content there? Is there a differentiation in terms of the actual YouTube versus TikTok versus just when you think about the actual video component? Well, is it actually Facebook? Because Facebook video it's been having some interesting data analytics surrounding it recently. And so it's really about where do they spend their time, both with traditional and digital marketing, because going to a golf course and playing a round of golf with 3 potential prospects could be so much more impactful than $1,500 worth of Google ad spend in a month. So you really need to understand who your audience is in terms of their values, their pain points, what are their goals and aspirations, what's the transformation that you are promising them, but then also where they spend their time so that you can send the best message and deliver the most value and the most impact. And then where that happens, practically speaking, when you have a message that you want to get out, you can take that same, and this is what we do. I mean, we create our content plan, and what we'll do is plan similar posts across different platforms, but we really tailor it to the audience, because the audience does change significantly. And that's, to your point, it's not schizophrenic at all. We typically assign 3 to 4 different verticals per company in terms of their target market, because you're going to speak to your new prospects very differently than you're going to talk to your customers, and you're going to talk very differently from your customers and prospects to potential referrals, and then to potential partners, and to, for example, if you're working with a mental health organization, family members of the patient is very different than talking to the patient. So it's being aligned with the brand story that's based on your brand values, but then tailoring the message across the target audiences. And so when we're looking at the target audience, we really build out, here's our key messaging points based on the target audience, and then we assign which platforms kind of belong to which audiences. And sometimes there's overlap, but that's kind of our logical structure and flow when we're creating the target audience.
Yes, I keep trying to come back to eye contact, but I keep writing. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, keep writing. We got add more. Yes, no. This has been amazing. Yeah.
Good. I would love to say one more thing. You made such a good point. And actually, this was brought to me when I was at the affiliate meet market in Berlin a few weeks ago, and someone asked me this question at the conclusion of my talk, and they posed the exact same concern surrounding, will big brands or just businesses in general invest in the promotion of their people, because what happens when somebody comes and poaches them? And this, again, it goes back to the very beginning when we're talking about the value of the brand. People want to align with something outside of themselves. And so if you empower them with a story and a mission that they can really get behind, it changes the entire dynamic of why they're there. But if they're there for a paycheck, anybody can swoop in and take them. So that's why that's another reason why establishing strong values to a business, and again, as an individual, because I've been really grateful for some of the team members that work with me, and they're just really, we really connect. We're really aligned in our personal values, and then they love the mission of the business, right? So there's the personal connection and the alignment of personal values, but then also the mission of what we're aiming to achieve as a company, they're really getting behind. And you think, it extends beyond across industries. It's, well, why am I going to buy this pair of socks as opposed to this pair of socks? Well, if I know that this pair of socks is actually going to be, buy one and you donate another to a third world country, and a family gets pairs of socks for Christmas, well, geez, I'm going to buy that, of course. People want to feel emotionally compelled to the mission of the organization, and that's best displayed through the values and through the social media content that's put out, as well as website content. But the social media is really just a great opportunity for continuous engagement.
I love it. And so many of us will be listening to this going, wow, I just jumped in and built a business and didn't even think about the other stuff that could be there, right? And so how do you create something so strong that your people become unpoachable, right? Because if the alignment for them is aligned with that, because again, we see it with brand loyalty out there, like you said, if there's a mission, but if I already know this company, I know, like, and trust them, and they speak my language because we're aligned in the same concept, then all of a sudden I have no issue, and price doesn't become the biggest contributor.
Price is actually the third in terms of contribution when it comes to decision making. I mean, the price, it really doesn't hold as much weight anymore than we thought. People are really willing to pay for the quality of the product or the service, and then also just the actual emotional feeling. I mean, 95% of our business decisions are made in our subconscious, which is where our emotions live. And so it's absolutely essential that we're creating content that is driven by emotion and pulls out the emotional response from the target audience. And the only way that you can really do that is if you take the time to know and understand them.
No, that's amazing. Okay, so we got your 3 steps. Fantastic. So everybody remember, right? You got to know yourself, because that's going to determine your vision and your company goals and the values, which is the most important, right? Know your audience with their values, their pain point, what transformation you'll provide for them. Okay, and then what's their watering hole? Because right now, Brian only heard go golfing.
I heard watering hole, and my bar is right over there.
Yes. So, right. And the third one is implement your strategy for your social media, your print, your face-to-face, whatever it is, based on where they're at, what they're doing. And it's okay to make similar posts across multiple platforms if that's where your clients are sitting or your desired prospects that are at that. And then decide if you're going to sell, decide if you're going to keep it. Right. That was amazing.
That is really important. It is really important. And one thing too, I mean, I think this is something I'm personally working on, just to bring it a little bit more personal here. I'm really working through, again, going back to how I was raised, and this is so critical in order to know yourself. So step 1, you have to know and understand how your past has impacted you today in order to then be able to take stock of, these are the decisions I need to make based on the influences and the experiences that I've had that have set my mindsets and behaviors and really influenced them deeply subconscious. So that takes a lot of work. But to be able to really acknowledge what has been, to take stock of what is, informs the ability to achieve the potential of your vision. And so that's really, really important. What I'm working on right now is, as I'm really doing due diligence to recognize me walking in, we're talking about vertical alignment, me walking in my calling and being vertically aligned will, by essence, push away people who are not in alignment with me. But we try so hard, we as in me, and I think many of us, it's so easy to fall into the trap of really being horizontally aligned and then really being desperate for being liked and being desperate for those comments, the affirmation of others. Whereas if we're really committed and deeply rooted in our values, we are, as a strong brand always does, going to have lovers and haters. And so we have to be committed to that. We have to be committed to the rejection. We have to be committed to people leaving our team, because ultimately we'll end up with the right team. That's what we want. We don't just want anybody to stay. We want the people who are really, truly in alignment with our values and with the vision and with the mission. So we have to make that decision. And it is a very conscious decision that we need to make. And there's probably going to be deep-seated fear there, as I'm experiencing. When you actually do the work, when you actually press deep enough, you recognize that there's a lot there, probably a lot from your past and from the experiences that you've had. And so if you're willing to do the work, you have to come face to face with the decision. Am I willing to have people reject me?
Absolutely. But what I like the best as you were saying that, for one, you lit up the whole time you were talking about it, right? So it was like, you couldn't wipe the smile off your face even while you said, I'm worried. And go through. But if you look at it, if you're vertically aligned, okay, you will repel those that are not in alignment, but you will become the magnet for the ones that are. So, and again, I would rather be polarizing vertical than horizontal.
Right.
And too many of us are horizontal, myself included, because we're looking around. So like before, my content shifts because I'm not aligned this way. I'm going across this way. So let me go piss you off because of this point of view. Let me piss you off for this point of view. Let me have you like me for this point and go through, but it's never consistent because I am going horizontal. So
Right. That's so good. I know, and it's interesting, the extremes, right? Because it's easy to say, well, if I'm going to be rejected, then I'm just going to grin and bear it. And it's like, okay, well, how do you balance, the elegance of being a brand that, you are public facing, you hold a responsibility of that when you have a team. And to your point of food's on the table because of the customers that you convert. And so there is a semblance of wisdom that needs to be in play here. And so that's where building out content in advance is really, really helpful so that you're not making on the fly decisions. Obviously that happens. But if you're able to take stock for what's coming down the road, you really can plan with both intentionality to stay in alignment with your values, be authentic and genuine in your presentation of the content, but then also, is this actually wise and best for my team? Because you've got a responsibility to them. It's not just your mouth you're feeding your families, it's also your team. And so it's that timing that you dedicate to be intentional with the strategy is really, really important.
that's fantastic. I'm going to throw out there because it's been scrolling on the bottom, the ChristeneMarie.com down there. But I encourage everybody go there because she has the free social media checklist. And I would say go there, click on it and download your free social media checklist, because the value she's given you so far today is amazing. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you, because I think at the bottom of your page, it does say speak with Christene. So there is a contact form you can fill out so that if you say my company needs this, right, I need to understand more at a deeper level, then reach out to Christene and get yourself vertically aligned and stop being schizophrenic Joe on all the content shifts that comes through.
Joe, horizontally.
Yes, I do, because I sleep horizontally, so I try to keep my alignments that way. But your way means I have to stay awake.
Consistent, right?
Yes. So,
funny.
But no, translating values from what's in your head to the company, I think, is phenomenal. That's another thing I got. Everything is person to person, regardless of if you're business to B2B or B2C. It's person to person, and highlight the person that you are, so that you can get your right audience that comes through. Because now I think what you just said too, which was pre-plan it and put the stuff out. I think that's really good, because like for me, I write down, create 3 pieces of content. And then I know today I have to have 3 pieces of content, but I post it right after I'm done. I'm like, okay, piece of content, post it, piece of content, post it. Where if I stopped, went back to it, looked at it and said, if I waited a week, did my mindset change? Did I just avoid putting out something that would have shunned away potential client base? So you did drop a lot of gold there.
One last thing, and I know we're at 38 minutes. So I love what you said about taking the due diligence to come back and revisit content. Content that for me has been the highest in converting. Content that has been the highest in converting is the content that really has been coming from my soul. And actually it's come so from those places of me doing my work, is that I actually will sometimes shut the laptop and be like, "Oh, I just exposed myself," and I feel vulnerable in that moment. And so that's not for everybody, but the ability to be able to present content that's so deeply from inside, people can tell, and the algorithms can tell too.
Right. Brian often cries on War Games. So today he hasn't, but yeah.
Clearly we haven't cut. We haven't done our job.
Well,
we need to
normally
keep going.
it's tears of boredom. You kept me entertained.
Right. Yes, it's true. If it's just me talking, then Brian's like
I love
bored
this
to
light
tears.
that's coming in. I feel very angelic because I feel like I'm, the light's coming in.
Now I'm
That's
gonna cry.
Right. I was going to say, when you leaned back and did that, it was more evil than it was angelic, like fallen angel, maybe. Yes. So, But perfect. Thank you so much, Christine. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you dumped into us because, wow, that was a lot. Okay. You threw out, and it came out of you so effortlessly, right? Anybody watching is like, did she really just drop, 47 nuggets that we all have to pick up? Because it didn't seem like it hurt her at all to go do that. And I think that's just because you're aligned whichever way.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Joe. And that social media checklist, it's not going to tell you a lot of the Googleable, what are the best times to post, what are the best days. Those can all be found on a lot of good content out in terms of websites. So take a look at the checklist. It's not gated. Yeah, right.
Yes. Well, perfect. I thank you so much. I still, everybody, there's a contact form down there, bug her, because she's all about email. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Don't send me a text.
Yeah, don't text her. Don't text her. No, it's all just about emails. So perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you took your time to come and share with all of us. Let's go ahead and pull us back up there so everybody can see Brian's face.
Yeah.
Look at his eyebrows.
Beautiful.
So that we can see it. But no, and I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Brian, for being here with us. Do you have a question before we kick it out? Or
nope, not at all. I'm gonna send you guys the picture of the statues we discussed before the show here in a minute.
Hey, perfect. Yes. Yeah. Don't text it to her. Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So as always, everybody, look, you got some great information to go take action on. I suggest you go take action on it and go out and sell something.